welcome back to Ducks Morning Brew. Start of a new week, a busy week for the Anaheim Ducks. We've got a game tonight against the Washington Capitals, a game Tuesday against Buffalo, so first back-to-back of the week, a game on Thursday against Columbus, and then another back-to-back Saturday and Sunday against Pittsburgh and St. Louis. The Ducks are the only team to play 5 games this week. A few teams play 4, but it is a unusually busy week. I don't think I've seen many 5 and 7 day schedules over the last couple of years. I mean, maybe for a few other teams, but at least for the Ducks, I think this has been the first in a while. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. All 5 are on the road. Not really far trips from each other, but still tough to travel to 5 different places over 7 days nonetheless. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for the Ducks to see how they do. First topic we're going to get into today is we're going to cover that game tonight, preview it a bit against the Washington Capitals. I want to talk about Olen Zellweger again. This is probably the 4th time we've talked about him on the show this year, but it's for good reason. He had what was originally a 6-point night this weekend and turned into a 5-point night. One of the secondary assists that he had got taken away, but he is just dominating the WHL this season, which is great to see. The Ducks got him in the second round of last year's draft, and it's turning out to be a steal so far the way he's been playing. And then we're going to talk about Ryan Getzlaf getting placed on the IR, how that affects the Ducks, how their roster is adjusted to him and Adam Henrique being out, and what that lineup could look like tonight and moving forward into the rest of the week here with Getzlaf and probably Henrique both out for at least the next couple of games. But let's start off with the game against the Capitals tonight. We all remember that fun game against the Washington Capitals last time with Zegras got the overtime winner. Just a really, really exciting game for the Ducks against, it was probably their first tough matchup of the season against, a really, really good opponent, and they came out and played well in that game, and I expect them to come out and play well in this game. The Caps are still on a roll. They're first in the Metropolitan Division, 5th in goals per game, 4th in goals against average. Their special teams are middle of the pack, so they're not amazing. It's a team you expect that power play to be great, but Backstrom's been out for the entire year. Oshie literally just came back. Last game, I think it would have been Saturday for the Capitals, and they had him only for a handful of games this year. So when you're missing Oshie and Backstrom, it is tough to get the power play going. But at 5-on-5, they've been able to put pucks in the back of the net, and a lot of that is thanks to Alexander Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Tom Wilson. That first line for the Capitals has been unbelievable this year. But the Ducks are right in there. I mean, they're 7th in goals per game, so not too far off. Their goals against average has dipped down below the halfway mark, so they're 16th in goals against average now. But their special teams are both top 5. Power play is 3rd, penalty kill is 5th. So I think if the Ducks are going to win this game, they're going to have to take advantage of the opportunities they get on the power play and limit the amount of times they put Ovechkin and the Capitals on the power play themselves and have a good penalty kill tonight for the Ducks. But it will be a fun game. I think the Ducks have played these top opponents well this year. Obviously, like I mentioned, we know how that last game against Washington went. The way Zegras and Raquel and Milano are playing, I don't see a line that the Caps are able to throw over the boards that are going to stop them. It's been 10 games that they're together, and we mentioned this on the regular podcast that will release later today, but Raquel, Milano, and Zegras have been together for about 10 games now, and their underlying numbers are ridiculous. Nobody has been able to stop them. They've gone against some really good defensive teams and shut down lines, and they have just dominated every night that they've been out there, and I don't expect that to change tonight. I don't think the Caps have a line that they can throw out there and really cause problems for that Zegras line. So it is going to be the Ducks' number 1 line versus the Caps' number 1 line, so it should be some run and gun hockey tonight, which will be exciting, which we're used to from last week when you look at the games against the Kings, Golden Knights, and Flames. Some high-scoring affairs, especially the first 2 of the week. But I think for the Ducks, the important thing is here, you got to shut down the Ovechkin line. They did it well in the last game. I think Ovi didn't have a shot until the 3rd period in that game, and you have to be aware of Oshie on that second line coming back. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back into the fold. Like I said, it's only been 1 game, and he's missed 15 to 20 games before that, with 1 game thrown in there where he got re-injured in. So it's going to take time for him to get up to speed, but he's playing on that second line and another weapon for them on the power play, so you got to keep an eye out for him because he's going to be dangerous there. But I give the Ducks credit. I think they have a chance to win this game. I think they have enough skill and offensive flair to go out there and play well. But again, this one a little bit different than last time. This one's on the road in Washington, which is always a tough place to go play. So you want to start off the road trip strong here. You got an immediate game after this in Buffalo tomorrow, and then Columbus on Thursday. So a real good chance to start with 3 straight wins to this road trip if you can get a win tonight against Washington. But I got faith in them. I think they can do it. At the very least, I think we know we're in for an exciting game. That's been the trend this year. The Ducks have only had really 2 bad losses to Colorado and Toronto. So nonetheless, I think we can expect a pretty good game for the Ducks and Caps tonight. All right, we got to move into some prospect talk. That's obviously one of the staples of this show. And Olen Zellweger had an amazing week to begin with, but an amazing weekend that was capped off with what was originally a 6-point night, which is the highlights you can see playing on the screen right now. One of the secondary assists got taken away at some point, so he ended up finishing with 1 goal and 4 assists instead of 1 goal and 5 assists, so it was a 5-point night. If he did have that extra point, he would be tied for the scoring lead among defensemen in the WHL, but he is now 1 shy of Benjamin Zlotty, who has 28. Zellweger has 7 goals and 20 assists in 21 games. But he does lead in points per game because Zlotty has played a few more games, I think 4 or 5 more than him. So Zellweger is 1.29 points per game, lead all defensemen in the Western Hockey League. His plus-minus at plus 26 leads to the league. His second in shots on goal with 78. And he's right up there in power play points with 10. So he's just had an unbelievable year. A lot of the questions going into the season where he had 11 games last year where he got 13 points. And the question from a lot of people was, okay, is this a small sample size of a player getting hot? Or can he do this, consistently next season? And he's proven here that he can. He's on a better point per game pace than he was last year. He's taken his offensive game to another level in terms of he's shooting the puck way more. He had a couple 8-shot games last week. And you can see that with the fact that he's second in the league in shots on goal among defensemen with 78. So he's really taken that part of his game to another level. He's got that trait that Drysdale has, where from the point, he's got the seeing eye shot where it just seemingly always gets through traffic to the front of the net and can create chances, generate rebounds, find teammates' sticks. So he's just kind of adding to the arsenal of tools that he has available to himself. And obviously the skating was the one thing to begin with that got him on a lot of teams' radars. But and now adding all this together, the fact that he's on Team Canada's selection camp and continuing to play like this, it's boding well to a really strong finish to the season for Zellweger. If he makes the World Juniors, plays a really important role for Canada, and has a chance to win a championship this year with a really, really strong team in Everett. So the Ducks got a good one here. That I mention this every time I talk about this draft, but that 2021 draft, especially those first 3 picks where you think we got McTavish, Zellweger, and Pastujov, it's looking good so far. Early returns on that draft, especially those picks, are very good, very high. 3 guys who could have been top 20 picks when you look at it now, the way they're playing. And hopefully that continues. Pastujov got back in the goal column this weekend after, I think, 3 or 4 games without a goal, so it was nice to see him get there. McTavish had a game that got canceled due to some COVID restrictions, but he'll be back in action soon, and they've all just had unbelievable starts to the year. So it'll be nice to see them when they all make it. It could be sooner rather than later with some of these guys. I think Zellweger is maybe the furthest out, but definitely proving that he could be in Anaheim sooner rather than later with the way he's playing right now. And let's finish off the day with the news about Ryan Getzlaf getting placed on the IR. It's funny, we were recording the podcast last night, and you'll hear it if you end up listening to it. But we were talking about this matchup tonight against the Caps and Ryan Getzlaf's availability for the games, because it was rumored that he was going to travel on the road trip with the team and that he hadn't been placed on the IR. And then the news broke immediately right when we were mentioning that Getzlaf had not been placed on the IR that he had. So he is on the IR. He's week to week. I imagine he doesn't play this week. I can't remember the deadline or what the restrictions are when you go on the IR and when you can play again. I think it's 4 games or 7 days, so he might be able to return for Sunday against the St. Louis Blues, but I imagine he probably just kind of sits the entire week, at least the first 3 games at the least. And the Ducks are going to have to adjust. They've had to adjust the last few games without him. They've done well. I think it's been Sam Steele who slotted in originally with Henrique and Terry, and then Henrique got hurt, and the lines kind of got shifted a lot because that was mid-game against the Flames. So no word on Henrique if he's available yet. Hasn't been placed on the IR. I think if he is available, he could potentially play first-line center, or first-line center. I mean, Zegras is essentially the first-line center at this point, the way that line's playing. But he could play center on that line, and the Ducks could shift Sam Steele out on the wing or move something around, and kind of fit some guys in here. I did see somebody say that the Ducks could optimize their lineup if Henrique and Getzlaf are out by playing Troy Terry with Milano and Zegras. I think that would be exciting to see. I don't think they do that just because of the way Raquel's played with those two, and I don't think you want to fix what's not broken at this point. And then they also said you could play Raquel with Lindstrom and Silfverberg. I think realistically it is Zegras, Milano, Raquel stay together, Lindstrom and Silfverberg play together, and then whoever they kind of want to place on the third line left wing at this point. And then we either see Sam Steele center the top line with Troy Terry and maybe Vinny Lettieri, and see how that goes. I think Benoit Olivier Groulx got called up, so that kind of shows you maybe where the news is on Adam Henrique, that if Groulx is traveling with the team, that he's likely going to play and Adam Henrique's going to be out. So, all we know for sure is that Zegras, Milano, and Raquel are likely to be together. The rest of the lines could see some changes here, but the Ducks are going to have to adjust quickly, and we'll get a real good look at what they can do when faced with some adversity here, and they have to go on the road for all 5 games. So this is the toughest stretch I think they've had of the entire season, just in terms of scheduling, the amount of games you have to play. They're all on the road. You're dealing with some injuries. You've got some adversity facing you right now, coming off a tough loss against the Flames that they fought back into. It's a really important week for this team to kind of show where they're at and where they can be from here when they're not fully healthy and don't have everything rolling for them. So, I got high hopes for this week. I think, again, Buffalo and Columbus are games you must win. The other 3 are very, very tough matchups, Washington, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis, especially those 2 games late in the week where, Pittsburgh will be the 4th game in 6 nights, and then St. Louis will be the 5th game in 7 nights coming off a game against Pittsburgh. So that game against St. Louis is going to be really tough. I don't blame them if they come out slow and sluggish in that game. You've got some injuries you're dealing with, and then to have to play that many games in a short period of time and that much travel, it really does make it tough. And a lot of guys are going to be looking back to going home after that St. Louis game about halfway through the second period. So it's going to be a tough one to get up for. But I got the faith in the Ducks this week. I think they're going to play well. We'll be back tomorrow to cover some of the topics from tonight's game and hopefully some of the performances from some of the prospects out in the CHL and college and over in Europe. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for coming out, guys, today. Stay tuned on the channel probably later today. We're going to release the podcast we recorded yesterday. So that will be released in video format here and on audio format and anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything like that. So make sure to check that out. I'll be back tomorrow morning with another Ducks Morning Brew. Thanks for coming out, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.